Welcome, my friends. This is Maniacal Incorporated, and this is High Strategy Oradros, a new grand strategy game from Iron Boar Labs, who very kindly sent me a key to check it out. Over on the Maniacal Inc channel, I have a how-to-play video for this, detailing what all of the actions do, how to change army composition, how to set diplomacy, and all that good stuff. So if you're interested in learning how to actually play the game, do go and check out that video. There's a link up in the corner, and I'll put a link below in the description. This video is going to be a playthrough. This is going to be a campaign. I'm going to give a quick overview of our starting faction, take a look at the world around us, and then I'm not going to cover each turn, all 300 turns, turn by turn. Instead, I'm going to go through it in sections. So we're starting a new game. As of right now, the faction that has the most wins, the achievement, or the highest achieved achievement, is the Well Lords. They're medium, and they're up here in a corner, so I think that might make them a bit easier, but I am dedicated to Clastos, and to trying to get a victory with Clastos, originally a Modian kingdom that sprawled into a regional power under the watchful gaze of the priesthood of Oran. It eventually outgrew its ability to control its subjects. Faced with the prospect of becoming the sacrifice at one of his rituals, the king suddenly became an inspired lawgiver. Isn't that always the way it happens? He enacted sweeping reforms and granted all major groups in the realm rotating positions of power in the royal administration. And of course, also, the emblem is green, so of course I'm going to go for that. Our leading ancestry is Modian, and our leading sect is the Flower Pantheon. And again, if that doesn't really make much sense to you, do go and check out that how to play video over on the Maniacal Inc channel. Our starting army is hoplites and slingers. I know from experience that we have a small population that is providing us with slingers, so that could actually end up going quite quickly. And here is our starting conditions. We border the Sand Carvers, the Ephemeral Kingdom, if I am correct, or the Ephemeral Court. We have the Bardassus, and then to the south we have a few factions as well, and we can see here are our victory conditions. So we have 3 to the south. We have 1 here, which is a tough one to try and get, because this is all pretty much a desert region, and these are a very strong desert defensive faction, and we actually have 2 over here. So 1 will get us a bronze medal, 1 of these golds, 2 of them, 3 of them will get us a silver, and 5 of them for gold. So it is very possible that we are going to try and push down in this direction, maintain positive relations with Bardassus, and possibly push in this direction as well, and that would give us the 5 targets that we would need to claim victory. In our diplomacy screen at the moment, we have friendly relations with Bardassus and the Sandcarvers. The faction to the south, the Crimson Precipice, are aggressive towards us, so I'm actually going to set our stance to defensive. We'll stay cautious with the Ephemeral Court. I'm going to trade with these 2 factions. Early on, what I'm going to predominantly focus on is increasing our development. So we can see we have a couple of regions that are at -1, including the court itself, or the capital. So we can't at the moment sustain this population, and it could disappear. So do you know what? We had better develop the capital. For the second turn, we're going to see about trading with a faction. We're on friendly relations with some forces to the north. We're seeing some of the forces to the south are beginning to conscript. Our starting army composition is pretty much set for mountain and desert, which could lead us on a southern push against the precipice. 68% chance for 80 gold. It would be wrong not to try. 67% chance for 80 gold. It would be wrong not to try. And a 66% chance at 80 gold, it would be wrong, again, not to try. Spying another time would be far too much money. After 7 turns, we're going to make our first attack. It's going to be a hefty one against the mountains. the independent faction in the mountains, and we have captured and expanded our territory, our first great march forward. Oh, and we have our first attempt at an attack. Obviously, the Sandcarvers to the north are not impressed with the amount of times that we have been focusing our spies on regions. We have no choice but to commit our defenders. We have lost a chunk of troops. And also we have now lost our slingers, and we need to reconstitute our army, and we need to reconstitute it badly. We are planning on attacking a few mountainous regions, so that will give us a bit of a mixed army. So that is going to take a few turns. That's going to take 6 turns to grow. And at the end of turn 17, earthquakes have struck throughout the kingdom. The Crimson Precipice has changed to cautious, which is maybe a bit unwise, as we do actually plan pushing against them. They are the weaker of the enemies at the moment. And we can see that the kingdom to our south, Lasamaya, is attacking and is defending. So this is actually a solid opportunity for us to try and break into their region. However, we do not have the forces to do so at the moment. If we were to try and attack, we would have a 0 advantage. It would take 540 men. We will risk it. And they've decided to defend against us. Now they've lost some territory to the south, which is at least going to keep them weak. And the Crimson Precipice has decided to move against us, the absolute devils. I think this is going to be the beginning of a war. We will immediately respond and try to seize their mountain. And we might actually be able to push forward. We'd be throwing a great deal of forces. We've actually managed to push onto their capital. We have now knocked 2 regions out of their possession. Their capital is also on a mountain, but that is going to be a tough one to attack. We don't have the forces to do so. We're going to spy here. And on turn 29, we managed to capture from the Sandcarvers in a coup. That is going to put them in a position where they might decide that they want to push against us. However, they do have a fairly weak army. And the Crimson Precipice will have to defend, but we could very well be in a position where they have ran out of forces and we are able to make... we're not able to make a push. We have seized the Crimson Precipice and wiped them from the map. We are now within striking distance of one of our victory targets. However, this is going to put us in a war against this fairly strong Massatria force to the south. We have no diplomatic relations with them at the moment. We'll put ourselves at cautious and we will put ourselves at defensive with those for now. And totally unknowns to me, the Ephemeral Court is trying to push against us. We have to commit pretty much our entire army to the defense. So they've taken advantage of our wars in the south. They have vastly more forces than us at the moment and are going to continue pushing against us. So we are, for a period of time, going to have to conscript new forces. I think we're going to have to conscript them from here. A spy has been caught. That is either coming from the Sandcarvers or from... It's coming from the Sandcarvers, because the Ephemeral Court is doing actions over in a different direction. Massatria is trying to take Lasamia. They'll have to defend there, so we can move in and start taking these mountainous regions. We're also coming under attack, probably, I'm guessing, from the Ephemeral Court. It's close enough, it's the Sandcarvers. We will have to dedicate 940 forces to the defense. Basically, the entire army We'll drop a support in the capital. Massatria has turned aggressive. We're probably going to need to develop some regions around the capital. So here's a cheap one to develop. There we go. We have an attack coming in against one of our mountain settlements, which is a pretty bad mistake on their behalf. And with all that, our troops have become more experienced. Now, they're pretty solid on the mountains at the moment, and we're coming off of the mountains. So plains or deserts? I think we'll go for plains at the moment. We actually have some opportunities for some spy targets. We can try and focus on putting a spy in the victory condition. We've actually failed. That will give us an opportunity to... It'll help us in pushing against them. And we're failing on some pretty high numbers. So they're trying to attack us again. We should be able to defend. And we're actually seeing that their forces are being whittled away, so we're going to make a push. As we have a slight advantage and as we have some spies in the victory target, we're going to make a push. We did not manage a breakthrough. We are whittling away their forces, however. They have made a bad mistake. We have managed to capture one of the victory conditions. We now have a bronze medal just as we are coming under attack. It is another push from the Sand Carvers. We're in a position to defend. And we are in an immediate position, I would imagine, to counterattack. So that was a bad mistake on their behalf. That counterattack against the Sand Carvers has given us access to some new forces, and it is our Hornbrow Cavalry, who we can now make more effective on plains. Time to take a look at our population composition. The Medians are still in the ascendancy, and we then have the Axavi in second, who are contributing shield bearers, but we're not actually using any of them. And then we have Achilleans. We may need to accommodate the Oron. That is the only thing. We're not accommodating them at the moment. So we can start to promote that and I think speak out against Confession of Sins. And that puts us now in a much better position, where we are appeasing the top 3 religious sects in the Empire. 50 turns in, we have expanded considerably. Our only problem, however, is that our army has been all but wiped. Another attack from the south. And one of our territories has been captured in a coup. Now we could begin the process of capturing it back. And we actually managed to fail. We might very well consider an attack against these forces to the north. Basically to wipe these guys out, which would open up the route northwards. We don't have much of an advantage. And we're now basically going on a mad northward push, seizing regions that we don't need, but which are giving us more money and more troops. So for this period, we're trying to basically solidify the new lands to the north. However, we have now grown to a stage where we could potentially take on our enemies to the far south. There is a region that has just gained independence. And this will allow us potentially to push in this direction. We will need to finish off the two factions that are down here. They are in a very weakened position at the moment. However, our army composition is not allowing us to push much down in this direction. So if we were to switch to jungles momentarily, that would open up the ability to attack down in this direction, and it would give us the ability to push against the Ephemeral Court, which has been problematic, even though they actually have quite a strong army at the moment. So very good against plains, and fairly good against jungles. It's going to take 4 turns, which isn't the worst. But we're bringing in the Great Tyrant. Our southern enemies are making an attempt to take our bronze medal. We're going to have to commit 1,000 troops to the defense of this region. They have actually lost some land to the south. We are 1 turn away from having our army back. The army change is done. And we must still commit extremely large numbers to the defense in this region. This is a jungle. And our army is strong against jungles, but we still must probably, because they fortified. It's a hefty attack, but we have managed to take it. We have managed to push them back. If we could build a defensive position with them, that would be fantastic. But any attack that we make is going to be an extremely large amount of forces lost. Try and get some spies into this victory goal. See if it'll save some troops. And with the amount of wealth that we have, so we've failed, they have developed. That's 2 fails, 2 very expensive fails. And we have managed to take possession of a second victory goal without the loss of a single life. But with the loss of an exceptional amount of money. Now, I think regions over here have gained independence. We have been hit by an earthquake. It's a small earthquake. Nothing to worry about. And we could well, with the amount of money that we have, take possession. They're actually attacking us in the mountains. We should be able to defend. And possibly we will be able to 100% chance of success. And we have now managed to cut more land off from them, and we might indeed even be able to just march into those regions and take them without the loss of any life. And we would want to try and build a defensive position here to prevent these guys from crossing across, because I have no doubt that that is what they are intending to do. 1,200 troops. They have a vastly stronger facility here than us. It would take a considerable amount of effort for us to try to take it. But the unhappiness in this region is causing a bit of anarchy. That's going to be 8 turns before this one falls. That is the only major problem. We need to rush on here before these guys take it, so it's a bit of a waste of our troops, but we've managed to take this region. That's going to be 1,800. We are going to rush across, and at considerable loss of life, try to develop a defensive position against Zbardia from coming across the ocean. You'll stay on your side of that sea. Our push down in that direction has given us access to some new forces. We could go for mountains, actually. A quick look at how things stand after the first 100 turns. We're 1/3 of the way through. And Clastos has solidified its borders in this region. We've wiped out the Sand Carvers. We wiped out the Crimson Pinnacle and have pushed very far down to the south. We've created a defensive position here against Zbardia. We kind of have defensive positions here against this island. This ruined island full of necropolises. So unless these guys think about coming across, we don't need to worry too much about that at the moment. We have tremendously weakened Massatria and Lasamia, and we've taken the 2 victory goals that we need. This area is going to go soon, and we could think about pushing in this direction, maybe wiping these guys out, and pushing for this victory condition, which would actually get the silver medal. For the next while, what I'm going to need to do is to develop our regions. You can see that there are a lot of regions which the population cannot grow in anymore, and indeed we actually have some problems over here due to earthquakes. Most likely, the next target, I'll probably try and mop up here for now. I think that's going to be the next target. For the next 100 turns, the main consideration is going to be development, keeping the army numbers up, keeping the numbers of soldiers that we can conscript up, and push in this direction. It's going to be tough to take that victory target. So I think this one and these 2. So we are going to be going to war with the ephemeral court at some stage. I'm going to start dropping supports like a lunatic to assist me in upgrading some places. And already they heard me talking about them. The ephemeral court is attacking. So I might need to start fortifying this position. And I think we've actually seen some land being taken from us by Zabardia. I'm not too sure if they maybe took that in a spy attack. We are seeing an attempt to take one of our victory conditions. We will have to defend. And we're probably going to see a lot of this going on over here unless we can wipe them out. And we lost the region anyway. They actually managed to break through. So we're going to have to start causing some trouble down in this region. We've managed to wipe out one of our enemies. And we've now built and opened up a front with the Pact Keepers. We will put ourselves at cautious. So we can take this for not too many forces needed. And 900 forces would allow us to attack that position. However, they have a substantial bonus because it's a swamp. Now, the only thing is that we have vastly more forces than them to throw at that region. Are we prepared to throw potentially thousands of men to bring down Massatria? Yeah. And it's actually becoming less and less to attack with each turn. Still, we're failing to break through. They do have a good chunk of forces around the rest of the place. They've run out. Thousands of men dead as we try to break through here. We have gained some unit advancement. That's on desert, so it's not brilliant. Our generals will not contemplate stepping back. This is absolute lunacy. I think we will have to. We will have to accept that we have failed utterly. So yeah, we have thrown thousands of men at the attack on Massatria. We can't do it. We're going to divert our attention momentarily and see if we can push through over here. They are starting to conscript forces again. We managed to destroy some development with our T-Rexes. And Massatria is pushing out. We may have become overconfident. It's not Massatria, it's these guys. So I'm actually going to fortify. And we're going to need to reassess. Thousands dead for very little progress. And we are coming under attack, I imagine, to the south again, and indeed it is Zabardia. And again, we're going to push hard against the capital. And we have seized it. And our enemies are no more. And again, we're under attack, and now it is the Pact Keepers who are actually striking against us for the first time. They have a huge advantage, if I am correct. They have. We're coming under attack from the Ephemeral Court. They have no advantage here. These guys have a massive bonus to fight in jungles. And all they have is T-Rexes. We're going to continue committing ourselves to trying to take this region. And we have the money to throw at it. Now, strangely enough, our entire army is built to attack jungles. But they have actually built a vastly superior army. Now, the problem is that they have practically no forces. So we might be able to push through against them. A massive loss of forces here. However, they have a worse disadvantage than us. These guys are weak and they've just started fortifying that strong position. Damn them. A 1,000 men. Throw them at this necropolis. I think we've broken them. No. Thousands thrown at these borders. They are desperately conscripting forces. That's going to be 1,000 men in that direction. Or we could throw them at the capital. Try to take the capital. We have lost an outlying city to a rebellion. Oh, we'll sit back for a moment. Thousands of men thrown at the walls here. We have some unhappy places. They're fortifying the capital. They have a massive, well, not a massive penalty, but there you go. We have taken the third victory condition just before the end of 200 rounds. Formed another border with some people who are nice to us. We would now have tremendous trouble to try and take the remaining 4 regions. We would be throwing men at the capital. For now, I think we will withdraw from the southern campaign. We have new neighbours, the Abbassai. We have nothing that they want. So we will put ourselves at friendly for now. So just before the start of turn 200, we're into turn 191. We'll take a quick look at how things stand. 3 out of 5 victory conditions have been met. And I think that what we're going to witness now for the next 100 and something turns, 109, is a push against these 2 positions. At the moment, we have a Great Tyrant heavy army, which is going to be good against these regions, the jungle regions. This is plains. It's an acropolis. That's going to be difficult, unless we can take this swamp. And what we'll try to do is basically take all of these jungle regions and then convert the army over to desert and try and push across and take here. And if I can do that, then we will have victory. We will have 5 out of 5 victory conditions. At the moment, we have 10k gold and 10k troops. You can't go over that number, so it does give us a tremendous ability to start throwing dead bodies at the walls of our enemies and start trying to spy on regions which have become unhappy. We've seen, since turn 200, no territorial changes in this region, bar these guys. The League of Squalls have pushed out. They defeated somebody who must have been up around here. I'm not too sure where they were. And they've taken that victory condition. So we could think about trying to push up that way. We don't have much of an army that we can use against necropolypsises. We don't have much of an army. These guys are going to have nothing but kind of like sandworms. And they are going to be able to defend the deserts way more efficiently than we can. And down here, this entire region has collapsed. We lost this territory. Still have a defensive position here, hoping that these guys aren't going to start causing trouble for us. Might need to wipe the Pact Keepers out completely, because they are prone to cause trouble, and we have... Rebellion has lost this region, so I have failed to meet Silmus, who are also Mudian, I believe. Achillean, which is kind of like Mudian. So we could end up wandering down here. But as you can see, there are no victory goals, there are no victory conditions, so I think there's only about 7 in total on the map, and the goal is to take 5 of them. So there would be another one, there would be another one, yeah, so there's 7 on the map, and the goal is to take 5 of them. So now, the next 100 or so turns are going to be marked by a war against the Ephemeral Court. What a glorious victory! We have managed to cut them off in their entirety. We are now coming under attack, I would imagine, down in this region, and we will try to hold. We actually have to hold our territories. And we are in a position where if we were to lose here, we would be in a tremendous amount of trouble, or if we were to lose here, we'd be in a tremendous amount of trouble, so I think we're going to have to briefly see if we can actually hit these guys. We've managed to take them out and bring their reign to an end. We'll clean up in this region. And we now have some new neighbours. The Bridge League. We are vastly stronger than them. They are Achillean as well. The League of Squalls are friendly towards us. We'll be friendly. And the Bridge League, I'll be friendly to them as well. The Ephemeral Court, we'd better set ourselves to aggressive. And I think I may have lost a territory in my mad pushes down in this direction. We have not, from what I can see. But one of the regions that we were intending on possessing is being taken over by the League of Squalls, and they have been problematic. They have been problematic towards us. And I've just gotten an achievement for witnessing 30 destruction from tyrants. So our tyrant rampage is actually destroying the city. So it's actually basically wiping out development. And it has caused the destruction. My tyrants have destroyed 30 development as they have rampaged throughout the world in the vanguard of our armies. Now we're under attack. And these guys, I told them not to cause trouble, and look what they are doing. So our forces are pretty much now promoted to the top. I'm going to need to fortify here against attacks from those guys in future. We've managed to take that region. We could see now about reconstituting the army to focus it on deserts. It will take 6 turns, and in that length of time we can devote ourselves to some development and dealing with this plague that's just kicked in. I don't think we need to change the sects that we're appeasing at the moment, but the Diorasa or Diorisa are becoming quite powerful. We have just brought a lot of Axavi in with our conquests over in this region, so what we could start doing is... Well, there's no point conscripting, but I don't think I'm going to do a huge amount of development over here. Not too pushed if the population increases or not. We'll do an S2, a support in the capital. And we can develop here. Our army composition change is done. And hopefully we are now about to make the last couple of pushes that we need. 1,500 troops into their capital would wipe out this entire region and allow us to push. They will have to defend, however. The ephemeral court has fallen, and we're now in a position, I would hope, to make a lightning push on the final victory target. We have victory! If we had actually reconstituted the army there, I didn't really think about it, but I didn't realise how weak their population in the capital had become, or their population in general. But if we had reconstituted the army to attack an Acropolis, then we could have slammed them in there, taken that, this region would have fallen immediately, and then we could have cleaned up as much as we needed. Fantastic. This is, I think, the 3rd or 4th time that I've played as these guys, and this is my first victory with them. I'm not sure, is this a brand new war goal? I don't think it is. But it's my first time going for it. I usually went for this one. And I would end up 1 target short, because this is a very difficult one to try and push through. These guys have a very large population in comparison to ours. And they have, their only forces are geared at attacking or defending in deserts. And everything they have is desert. You would need to act very quickly, very early on, and try to push through here, here, and here, and then either spy this place out, or... yeah, I don't know what you'd have to do. The last time I played, I came under tremendous pressure from the Crimson Precipice and the Ephemeral Court. I was being attacked by both of them each turn, and you can only defend against one of them. And I was being attacked in alternating turns by them. So I lost a substantial amount of my starting land, and it led to a completely different game. So depending on... you're going to start, you're always going to be in the exact same starting conditions, and you're always going to have the exact same starting goals. So in that sense, it's a bit like Crusader Kings 3. If you've watched one of my CK3 playthroughs, you've nearly watched all of them. It's unify Ireland, then consider messing around in Scotland, Wales, and Cornwall, and the Isle of Man. Go to West Francia and ask them for military aid, because they're the largest neighbouring kingdom that's likely to support you. So the playthroughs all have very similar elements. So attacking these guys, a war against the Ephemeral Court, these guys coming across and creating a conflict zone here. There's kind of certain repetitions from playthrough to playthrough to playthrough if you're playing as the same faction over and over and over again. However, depending on how they treat each other, depending on how they set their diplomatic stances, it's going to be a very different journey with similar overtones, but a very different journey. And of course, I mean, come on, you start down here, you're going to have a completely different game to the game that we had here. But delighted with that. Delighted with that. Worked well. Managed. I think we didn't come under a huge amount of pressure. We dealt, expanded early, got to some good defensive positions. I know we lost this region, but we had another to fall back on. I think the riskiest time that we had was probably when these guys were still here. They could have literally just taken this place and cut off here, so we would have to have come back and done a chunk of war. We were lucky that the these guys didn't push down and take that victory condition. I don't think I could have taken it back from them. And early on, if I had reconstituted the army to fight in the destroyed cities, we could have pushed and taken this victory condition. I've never taken this one, and I've never taken this one. So there you go. Even though I've just won with these guys and finished, there are still actually things that I could do. So there you go. I really enjoyed that. That was fantastic. We have victory. And I quite like this. We have the kind of the early Civ game. Well, no, but all the Civ game replays. So these are our cities, and these are the surrounding victory goals, the surrounding victory targets. And we're expanding out. We're expanding down into the south. We've wiped out the Crimson Precipice. We can see our wealth growing. We've taken our first victory target. We've lost some land in this direction. The Sand Carvers, I think we've just wiped them out. And we're now pushing across and trying to take these two areas. So here's the end of the first 100 turns. Yeah, we did indeed lose that territory there. So it's a nice little replay, and you can stop it to check at what point in time. You can see also, which I think is quite useful, how many times you used each action. So I didn't actually displace anyone this turn. Or this entire game. The first time I played, support was one that I didn't use very much, and it's one that I've learned to start using a lot more, and that it can be a lot more beneficial. So here's our dramatic push onto the final victory target. So I actually used a good chunk of supports this time round. A good chunk of development uses, and when you think about each turn you can do one thing, we should have had 300 turns, and in 30 of those, I used develop. Now, it was actually 225, so it was more than 10% of my total actions were develops. So develop is what I was doing quite a lot of spying, and then, of course, almost closing in on about 40% of the entire game was combat. What I do like is that we can go back to the start. We started with 14 cities and a population of 45, and we got up to 53 cities and a population of 272. The wealth and the soldiers don't really count because that's a cap. It's not like the total amount of soldiers that you had at any one time. There is our capital. We didn't expand out much in this direction, but we've expanded north and dominated the entire south with our dinosaurs, our great tyrant T-Rexes, which caused untold devastation to the cities around us, which we then conquered and had to rebuild. So there you go. That is a look at high strategy Oradros. We could now switch to sandbox mode and just continue playing. I think it'll go out to 1,000 turns, no victory conditions, and you can't get achievements. But yeah, the first time I played this, I thought to myself, I got about 3 victory targets, lost one of them on the last turn, and then it was closing in on another. So on the last 2 turns, I basically went from 4, almost 5, to 3. And I thought, right, I'll play one more game as an easy faction, and I'll easily win, and then I'll move on to the medium factions. I got the living daylights beaten out of me in the next playthrough. I was able to recover, but over the first 50 turns, it was hell on earth, a completely different experience to this playthrough. So I really enjoyed this. I'm going to, over on Twitch, there's a link below in the description, do go and check it out. I'm going to play more of this. I'm going to play with some of the The other easy factions, I might move on to a medium faction next. There's easy, medium, hard, and nuts. I would love to see what one of the nuts factions are like. They're very small starting conditions. And I imagine with quite aggressive neighbors. So that's going to be an interesting style of a game. And again, it's going to dramatically change. Here with this large starting empire, I was in a position where I could use lots of supports to develop regions. If you're in a territory with a much smaller population, you might need to use that displace to either try or even conscript. Look at how few conscripts I used. On that game where I got the living daylights beaten out of me, I was conscripting constantly. If there was 45 people in an area, I was conscripting them. I needed them because I was under constant attack, and my forces were being kept very small in comparison to the Ephemeral Court and the Crimson Precipice, which just kept attacking. So completely different playthrough with the same faction, game to game, but again, I would imagine that with the higher and lower difficulty tiers, that you're going to see a requirement for different strategies as well. So there you go. High strategy, Oradros. There's a link below in the description to the Steam page. I would really advise that you go and check this out. This game, in its entirety, has taken me an hour and a half. And if you want that grand strategy vibe, if you want that conquest, if you want that strategic level of thinking, but you don't want to get into an hours-long, days-long CK3 playthrough, something short, something with a target, something with a goal, something with solid objectives, I would highly recommend that you check out High Strategy Oradros. There is a bit of a learning curve to it. I picked it up in its entirety, I would say, after 2 games. There are still some aspects of it, and I discussed this in the video over in Maniacal Incorporated. There are still some aspects such as population growth. How does it work? No idea. But I was able to get through this game without needing to worry about that. My cities were growing. My enemies' cities weren't because my T-Rexes were killing them all. So I didn't really need to worry too much about it. There are some mechanics that are kind of hidden from you at the surface level, but it's not exactly all that hefty of a game to pick up with a small bit of work. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you all very much for joining me on High Strategy Oradros, and I hope to see you the next time, because I need somebody to train my T-Rexes.